Imagine two fathers. One is highly educated, holds a prestigious position, works tirelessly, and yet struggles to make ends meet. The other never finished formal schooling, built businesses from the ground up, and became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. Now imagine both fathers sitting down with you and giving you their very best advice about money. One tells you, go to school, study hard, get a good job, and work for a stable company. The other tells you, don't work for money. Make money work for you. One says, our house is our biggest asset. The other says, your house is not an asset, it's a liability. One teaches you to save money. The other teaches you to invest money. One says, I can't afford it. The other asks, how can I afford it? These two fathers existed in the life of a young boy growing up in Hawaii. One was his real father. The other was the father of his best friend. And the contrast between their financial philosophies would shape that boy's destiny, eventually leading him to write one of the most influential personal finance books of all time, a book that has sold over 40 million copies worldwide, been translated into more than 50 languages, and spent over 6 years on the New York Times bestseller list. Welcome to Audiobook Insights. Today, we're diving deep into Robert Kiyosaki's groundbreaking classic, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money, that the poor and middle class do not. This is not just another book about getting rich. This is a book about fundamentally changing the way you think about money, work, and life itself. It challenges everything you learned in school, everything your parents taught you, and everything society tells you about success. And whether you love it or hate it, one thing is certain. Reading this book will never let you see money the same way again. Over the next several hours, we're going to explore every chapter, every lesson, and every insight from this transformative book. We'll look at why financial education is more important than academic education, why the rich play by completely different rules than everyone else, and how you can start building genuine wealth, regardless of where you are today. We'll examine the criticisms, the controversies, and the practical applications. By the end, you'll understand why this book has sparked a global conversation about money, and why its lessons remain as relevant today as they were when first published in 1997. So get comfortable, open your mind, and prepare to see money through the eyes of two fathers. This is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. About the book and author. Before we dive into the lessons, let's set the stage with some important context about who Robert Kiyosaki is and how this book came to be. Robert Toru Kiyosaki was born in 1947 in Hilo, Hawaii, into a family of educators. His father, Ralph Kiyosaki, served as the head of the Hawaii State Department of Education, a man deeply committed to academic achievement, job security, and the traditional path to success. This is the man who would become the poor dad in Kiyosaki's narrative. Though not because he was financially destitute, but because relative to the wealthy family down the street, his financial philosophy kept him trapped in what Kiyosaki calls the rat race. Growing up, young Robert had a best friend named Mike. Mike's father was an entrepreneur who never completed formal schooling, but built a considerable fortune through businesses and investments. This man became the rich dad who would mentor both boys, teaching them lessons about money that no school would ever provide. Now it's important to note something about this story. For years, readers wondered whether Rich Dad was a real person or a literary device. Kiyosaki was often evasive about the identity of his mentor, leading some to question whether the character was fictional. However, after the death of Hawaiian hotel developer Richard Kimmy in 2009, Kiyosaki confirmed that Kimmy was indeed the inspiration for Rich Dad. And whether the stories are literal truth or parables based on real experiences, the lessons they convey have resonated with millions. Kiyosaki himself didn't achieve immediate success. After high school, he attended the United States Merchant Marine Academy, then served in the Vietnam War as a helicopter gunship pilot. After the military, he worked for Xerox, then started his own business in 1977, a company that manufactured nylon and Velcro surfer wallets. The business found moderate success. But Kiyosaki's true calling was education. In 1985, he co-founded an international education company that taught business and investing to students across 7 countries. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was originally self-published in 1997. The book was co-written with Sharon Lechter, a certified public accountant and businesswoman who shared Kiyosaki's passion for financial education. Lechter's expertise added credibility to the financial concepts and helped frame the message for a mainstream audience. What makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad unique is its narrative format. Rather than a dry textbook on finance, Kiyosaki tells stories, parables from his childhood, conversations with his 2 dads, and lessons learned through trial and error. This approach makes complex financial concepts accessible and memorable. And the book's phenomenal success, over 40 million copies sold worldwide, speaks to a hunger for financial education that traditional schooling fails to satisfy. As Kiyosaki famously writes, the main reason people struggle financially is because they have spent years in school but learn nothing about money. The result is that people learn to work for money, but never learn to have money work for them. Overview of main themes. Before we walk through the book chapter by chapter, let's establish the foundational themes that run throughout. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. These are the big ideas that Kiyosaki wants you to internalize. Theme 1. The rich don't work for money. Money works for them. This is the central thesis of the entire book. Most people spend their lives trading time for money. They get up, go to work, earn a paycheck, pay bills, and repeat. The rich, by contrast, build systems where money generates more money without their direct labor. This isn't about being lazy. It's about being strategic. It's the difference between being an employee and being an owner, between earning active income and building passive income streams. Theme 2. Financial literacy is the foundation of wealth. Kiyosaki argues that it's not how much money you make that matters. It's how much you keep and how hard that money works for you. Many high-income professionals remain broke because they don't understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Financial literacy means understanding accounting, investing, markets, and the law. Without this foundation, money comes and goes like water through a sieve. Theme 3. Assets versus liabilities, the critical distinction. This is perhaps the book's most famous lesson. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. The path to wealth is simple in concept, but difficult in execution. Spend your life acquiring income-generating assets. The poor and middle class, by contrast, spend their lives acquiring liabilities they mistake for assets. Cars, boats, houses that drain cash through maintenance, interest, and depreciation. Theme 4. Mind your own business. Kiyosaki distinguishes between your profession and your business. Your profession is what you do for a paycheck. Your business is your asset column, the things you own that generate income. While you're working your day job, you should be building your asset column on the side. This might mean investing in real estate, buying stocks, starting a side business, or creating intellectual property. The goal is to eventually have your business income replace your professional income. A theme. 5. The power of corporations and tax strategies. One of the reasons the rich get richer is that they understand how to use legal structures to their advantage. Corporations, Kiyosaki explains, often pay less in taxes than employees do. This isn't about cheating. It's about understanding the rules of the game. Employees earn, pay taxes, then live on what's left. Corporations earn, deduct expenses, pay taxes on what remain, then distribute the rest. The order of operations makes a massive difference over time. Theme 6. Work to learn, not to earn. Early in your career, Kiyosaki advises prioritizing learning over money. Take jobs that teach valuable skills: sales, marketing, leadership, accounting, even if they don't pay as well as other options. These skills become the foundation for your eventual wealth building. Too many people chase high salaries in narrow specialties. They then find themselves trapped with skills that don't translate to entrepreneurship or investing. Theme 7. Overcoming obstacles is part of the journey. Even financially literate people sometimes fail to build wealth because of psychological barriers: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. Kiyosaki addresses these obstacles head-on, offering strategies for pushing through them. The path to wealth isn't just about knowledge. It's about mindset and emotional discipline. With these themes in mind, let's walk through the book chapter by chapter, exploring each lesson in depth. Chapter by chapter summary. Introduction. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book opens with a powerful scene. Two young boys, 9 years old, struggling to understand why some people are rich while others are poor. Robert and his best friend Mike are confused because their own fathers seem equally smart, equally honest, and equally hardworking. Yet one struggles financially while the other prospers. Kiyosaki introduces us to his real father, the poor dad. This man is highly educated, holding a master's degree, and working as a teacher, and later as a high-ranking education official. He is well respected in the community, attends church regularly, and believes in the traditional American dream: work hard, save money, invest in your home, and trust your employer and the government to take care of you in retirement. And then there's Mike's father, the rich dad. He never finished 8th grade, yet he owns businesses, invests in real estate, and has built considerable wealth. He teaches his son and Robert through practical lessons rather than lectures, using real-life situations to demonstrate financial principles. The contrast between these two men frames the entire book. Poor Dad says, "I can't afford it." Rich Dad asks, "How can I afford it?" Poor Dad advises, "Study hard so you can find a good company to work for." Rich Dad advises, "Study hard so you can find a good company to buy." Poor Dad says, "The reason I'm not rich is because I have you kids." Rich Dad says, "The reason I must be rich is because I have you kids." These differences aren't about intelligence or work ethic. They're about mindset, fundamental assumptions about money, security, and success that shape every financial decision. Chapter 1. The Rich Don't Work for Money. This chapter tells the story of how young Robert and Mike first approached Rich Dad for lessons in making money. Rich Dad agreed to teach them, but on his terms. He offered them jobs at one of his convenience stores, paying just 10 cents an hour. The boys worked hard for 3 weeks, but the pay was so meager that Robert became frustrated. He went to Rich Dad to demand a raise or quit, instead of giving him either option. Rich Dad delivered his first lesson. He explained that most people are trapped by 2 emotions: fear and desire. Fear of not having enough money drives people to work. Then, once they get paid, desire kicks in. They see all the things money can buy and they want more, so they work harder, get raises, and expand their desires to match their new income. The cycle continues endlessly. They get up, go to work, pay bills, get up, go to work, pay bills. Rich Dad explains. Their lives are then governed by 2 emotions, fear and greed. Offer them more money and they continue the cycle by increasing their spending. This is what I call the rat race. The way out, Rich Dad teaches, is to recognize this trap and refuse to play the game. Instead of working for money, you must learn to make money work for you. This requires financial education, understanding how money really works, and emotional discipline, making decisions based on logic rather than fear or greed. Rich Dad then taught the boys a practical lesson. He fired them from their jobs at the store. Instead of paying them, He offered to teach them for free. The boys were confused, but they accepted. Soon they found an opportunity. The store had piles of unsold comic books that were destined for the trash. The boys collected them, set up a small library in Mike's basement, and charged other kids 10 cents each to read them. Within months, they were earning more than their original wages, without working for anyone. The lesson: when you stop working for money and start thinking creatively, opportunities appear. The boys didn't need a job. They needed an asset, something that generated income while they weren't working. Key insight: your emotions will try to control your financial decisions. Fear makes you cling to a paycheck. Greed makes you spend what you earn. True financial intelligence means recognizing these emotions and making decisions based on long-term wealth building rather than short-term comfort. Chapter 2. Why Teach Financial Literacy. This chapter introduces the concept that will become the book's cornerstone: the difference between assets and liabilities. Kiyosaki makes a bold claim: an asset is something that puts money in my pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. This simple definition seems obvious. Yet Kiyosaki argues that most people get it backward. They think their house is an asset, but for most families, a house is actually a liability. It takes money out of your pocket every month through mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. Unless you're renting it out for income, your house is not an asset. It's an expense. The poor and middle class, Kiyosaki explains, focus on their income statement, how much money comes in and goes out each month. They get raises, buy bigger houses and nicer cars, and their expenses rise to match their income. The rich, by contrast, focus on their balance sheet, specifically their asset column. They acquire assets that generate passive income, then use that income to buy luxuries. Kiyosaki shares a story about a woman who asked him, "How do I get my children to mind their own business?" He answered, "First, you must understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Then you must teach them the same thing." He emphasizes that financial literacy isn't taught in schools. Most people graduate, get jobs, and stumble through life making the same mistakes their parents made. Mistaking liabilities for assets, working for money instead of having money work for them. The result is a lifetime of financial struggle, regardless of income level. Key insight: wealth isn't about how much money you earn. It's about how much you keep and what you do with it. The rich buy assets. The poor and middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. Master this distinction, and you've mastered the foundation of wealth. Chapter 3. Mind Your Own Business. Kiyosaki opens this chapter with a provocative statement: your house is not an asset. He acknowledges that this contradicts conventional wisdom, but he's adamant. For most people, a house is a liability because it consumes cash without producing income. This doesn't mean you shouldn't own a home. It means you should understand what you're actually buying. When you buy a house, you're taking on a significant expense. If you want to build wealth, you need to acquire assets first, then use the income from those assets to buy your dream home. So what counts as an asset? Kiyosaki lists several categories. Businesses that don't require your presence. You own them, but they're managed by others. This is true passive income. Stocks. Shares in companies that pay dividends or appreciate in value. Bonds. Loans to governments or corporations that pay interest. Income-generating real estate. Properties that produce rental income greater than expenses. Notes. I owe us. Loans you make to others that generate interest payments. Royalties. Income from intellectual property. Books, music, patents. Anything else that has value, produces income, or appreciates and has a ready market. Kiyosaki uses McDonald's as an example. Most people think McDonald's is in the hamburger business. But Ray Kroc, the man who built McDonald's into a global empire, understood something deeper. When asked what business he was in, Kroc reportedly said, "I'm in the real estate business." McDonald's owns some of the most valuable intersections in America. The hamburgers are just the vehicle for generating income that supports the real wealth, the real estate. The lesson? Mind your own business. While you're working your day job, build your asset column on the side. Keep your expenses low. Invest in income-producing assets and let those assets grow. Eventually, your asset column will generate enough income to support the lifestyle you want. Key insight. Your profession is what you do for money. Your business is what you own that makes money. Don't confuse the two. Chapter 4. The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. This chapter might be the most eye-opening for readers unfamiliar with how the wealthy structure their finances. Kiyosaki explains that taxes weren't always a fact of life. They were invented to fund wars and other government expenses, and originally, they only affected the rich. Over time, however, the tax burden shifted. Today, Kiyosaki argues the middle class bears the heaviest tax load. Thus, while the rich use sophisticated strategies to legally minimize their taxes, the key difference is that employees earn, pay taxes, and live on what's left. Corporations earn, deduct expenses, pay taxes on what remains, and then distribute the remainder. Kiyosaki explains it this way. Every time you earn $1, the government takes a share. But if you earn through a corporation, you can deduct many expenses before taxes are calculated. You can pay for your car, your health insurance, your education, all with pre-tax dollars. Then whatever's left is taxed, and you can reinvest it in your business. This isn't about tax evasion. It's about understanding the rules and structuring your affairs to take advantage of them. The wealthy hire accountants and lawyers who know the tax code inside and out. The middle class fill out their own tax returns and pay whatever the government demands. So Kiyosaki shares a personal example. My rich dad designed a game called Cash Flow to teach people what I learned from him. One of the key lessons is that the rich invent money. They create opportunities that others don't see. And they use structures like corporations to protect and grow their wealth. The chapter also introduces the concept of financial IQ, which Kiyosaki breaks down into 4 components. Accounting, the ability to read and understand financial statements. This is the foundation of financial literacy. Investing, the science of making money work for you. Understanding risk, return, and various investment vehicles. Understanding markets, the art of supply and demand. Knowing when to buy and when to sell. Law, understanding tax advantages and legal protections. This is where corporations come in. Key insight. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And the wealthy use legal structures to keep more of what they earn and to protect their assets from lawsuits and creditors. Chapter 5. The Rich Invent Money. This chapter explores the creative mindset that distinguishes successful investors from everyone else. Kiyosaki argues that financial genius isn't about having a high IQ. It's about seeing opportunities that others miss and having the courage to act. He shares a story from his own life. In the early 1990s, when the real estate market was crashing, most people were terrified. Prices were falling, banks were foreclosing, and everyone said real estate was a bad investment. But Kiyosaki saw opportunity. He bought properties for pennies on the dollar, using creative financing and negotiating skills he'd developed over years. When the market recovered, he was wealthy. The lesson: everyone can become an investor. The question is, are you willing to learn? Kiyosaki emphasizes that investing isn't about picking the right stock or buying the right property. It's about developing financial intelligence, the ability to solve problems, create value, and see possibilities. The more you learn, the more opportunities you see. Yet he identifies 3 skills that are essential for inventing money. Finding opportunities that everyone else misses. This requires looking where others aren't looking and thinking differently about what you see. Raising money. The wealthy know how to find capital, from banks, from partners, from creative financing structures. You don't need your own money to invest. You need other people's money and the credibility to attract it. Organizing smart people. No one builds wealth alone. But you need accountants, lawyers, brokers, mentors, and partners who bring skills you lack. Kiyosaki also addresses the fear that holds people back. The reason so many talented people are poor is because they focus on building a better hamburger and know little to nothing about business systems, he writes. They're so focused on their craft that they never learn how money works. Key insight. Money is invented, not earned. The wealthy create opportunities through financial intelligence. The rest wait for opportunities to come to them, and often miss them. Chapter 6. Work to learn, don't work for money. This chapter offers counterintuitive career advice, especially for young people. Kiyosaki argues that instead of chasing high salaries, you should seek jobs that teach valuable skills, even if they pay less. He shares his own experience. After leaving the military, he wanted a job that would teach him sales, and he knew sales skills would be essential for his future as an entrepreneur, so he took a job at Xerox, not because the pay was great, but because Xerox had one of the best sales training programs in the world. He worked on commission and sometimes struggled, but he learned how to sell. Later, he sought jobs that taught him about accounting, marketing, management, and other business skills. Each job was a stepping stone, not a destination. Kiyosaki identifies several skills that are particularly valuable for building wealth. Sales and marketing. The ability to persuade others is perhaps the most valuable skill in business. If you can sell, you can survive anything. Accounting. Understanding numbers is essential for evaluating investments and managing businesses. Management. Learning to lead and motivate people multiplies your effectiveness. Leadership. The highest level skill. The ability to inspire others to take action. The problem, Kiyosaki observes, is that most people specialize too early. They become expert accountants or expert engineers, but they never develop the broad business skills needed to build wealth. They're like the best hamburger cook in the world, but they don't know how to run a restaurant. Key insight. Job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. Choose your jobs based on what they'll teach you, not what they'll pay you. The money will follow the skills. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. At this point, some readers might be thinking, this all sounds great, but why doesn't everyone do it? Kiyosaki addresses this question head-on by exploring the psychological barriers that prevent even financially literate people from building wealth. Obstacle 1. Fear. The fear of losing money is perhaps the biggest obstacle. Most people are so afraid of loss that they avoid investing altogether, or they invest so conservatively that their returns barely keep pace with inflation. Kiyosaki's perspective. For most people, the reason they don't win financially is because the pain of losing money is far greater than the joy of being rich. He argues that failure is part of the learning process. He himself has lost money on investments, but he learned from those losses and became a better investor. And the key is to manage risk, not avoid it entirely. Obstacle 2. Cynicism. Cynics criticize opportunities without analyzing them. They'll tell you why something won't work, why the market is too risky, why you shouldn't try. Cynicism is often a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding the fear of failure. Kiyosaki's response: cynics criticize and winners analyze. Instead of listening to cynics, do your own research. Understand the risks, but also see the potential. And every investment has both. Obstacle 3. Laziness. Laziness might seem like an obvious obstacle, but Kiyosaki identifies a more subtle form: busyness masquerading as productivity. People fill their days with errands and tasks to avoid the hard work of financial education. They're too busy to read about investing, too busy to research properties, too busy to learn about stocks. The solution? A little greed. Kiyosaki isn't advocating materialism, but he argues that desire can be a healthy motivator. If you want something badly enough, you'll overcome laziness to get it. Obstacle 4. Bad habits. Our habits shape our lives. If you're in the habit of spending first and saving whatever's left, you'll never build wealth. The wealthy have a different habit. They pay themselves first. They set aside money for investments before paying bills or buying luxuries. This habit creates pressure. If you've paid yourself first, you'll have to figure out how to pay your bills with what's left. That pressure, Kiyosaki argues, is productive. It forces you to think creatively, work harder, and find new ways to generate income. Obstacle 5. Arrogance. Arrogance is ego plus ignorance. When people are arrogant about money, they pretend to know more than they do. They make foolish investments based on overconfidence, then blame the market when things go wrong. The cure: education. And admit what you don't know and commit to learning it. Seek advice from people who know more than you do. Humility in the face of complexity is wisdom. Key insight: financial knowledge alone isn't enough. You must also master your own psychology. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. These inner obstacles are often harder to overcome than any external barrier. Chapter 8. Getting started with the obstacles addressed. Kiyosaki offers practical steps for beginning your wealth-building journey. He shares 10 principles that have guided his own path. 1. Find a reason greater than reality. Your desire to build wealth must be powerful enough to overcome the inevitable setbacks. Kiyosaki calls this the power of spirit. When you hit obstacles, your why will keep you going. 2. Make daily choices. Wealth building isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every day, you choose to invest in your financial education. Read books, listen to podcasts, attend seminars. Your mind is your most powerful asset. Invest in it consistently. 3. Choose friends carefully. Kiyosaki advises against listening to poor friends who offer fearful advice. Instead, seek out friends who are wealthy or who are on the path to wealth. Learn from them. Let their success inspire you. 4. Master a formula and then learn a new one to escape the rat race. You need to learn how money works. This is a formula, but once you've mastered one approach, keep learning. The most successful people are always expanding their knowledge. 5. Pay yourself first. This principle appears repeatedly. Set aside money for investments before you pay bills or buy anything else. The discipline of paying yourself first forces you to be more resourceful with the money that remains. 6. Pay your brokers well. Good professionals save you time and money. But when you find a good accountant, lawyer, or real estate agent, pay them what they're worth. They'll save you far more than they cost. 7. Be an Indian giver. This refers to the practice of giving a gift and then taking it back in some form. In investing, it means recouping your initial investment while keeping the asset. If you buy a rental property for $100,000 and later refinance to pull out your original investment while keeping the property, you've become an Indian giver. Now you own the asset for free. 8. Use assets to buy luxuries. The financially illiterate use debt to buy luxuries, credit cards for vacations, loans for cars. The financially literate use assets to buy luxuries. The income from investments pays for the extras. 9. Find heroes. Having heroes gives you a model to follow. When Kiyosaki wanted to learn about real estate, he studied Donald Trump. This was before Trump's presidency. When he wanted to learn about stocks, he studied Warren Buffett. Heroes show you what's possible. 10. Teach and you shall receive. The best way to learn is to teach. When you share what you know, you deepen your own understanding. Plus, you attract people who can help you on your journey. Key insight. Getting started requires more than knowledge. It requires action. These 10 principles provide a roadmap for turning knowledge into wealth. Chapter 9. Still want more. Here are some to-dos. The final chapter offers additional practical suggestions for readers ready to take action. Stop doing what you're doing. If your current approach isn't working, stop. Take a break. Assess your situation with fresh eyes. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is pause and reconsider. Look for new ideas. Visit bookstores. Browse online. Attend seminars. Expose yourself to new ways of thinking about money. You never know where the next great idea will come from. Find someone who's done what you want to do. Ask them for advice. Most successful people are willing to share what they've learned. You just have to ask. Take classes, buy tapes, go to seminars. Continuous learning is non-negotiable. The financial world changes constantly. Stay current. Make lots of offers. When you're looking for investments, make offers. You don't have to buy, just practice negotiating. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Shop for bargains in all markets. Train yourself to spot value. Every market, stocks, real estate, businesses, has bargains if you know how to find them. Look in the right places. A friend wanted to buy a piece of property in a desirable area, but found nothing for sale. Kiyosaki suggested looking in the ugly areas, neighborhoods that were overlooked but poised for change. His friend found exactly what he wanted. Learn from history. Markets move in cycles. Study past booms and busts. Understand the patterns so you can recognize them when they recur. Action always beats inaction. This is perhaps the most important principle. You can read every book, attend every seminar, and study every market, but until you take action, nothing changes. Start small if you must, but start. Key insights and takeaways now that we've walked through the entire book. Let's distill the most valuable lessons into practical takeaways you can apply in your life. Takeaway 1. Redefine assets and liabilities. This is the foundational concept. Take a piece of paper and draw 2 columns. Label one assets and the other liabilities. Now list everything you own in the appropriate column based on one question. Does this put money in my pocket or take money out? That car you love. Unless you're using it for a business that generates income, it's a liability. That rental property that cash flows $500 a month, asset, your primary residence. Unless you have roommates paying rent, it's a liability. This exercise alone can transform your financial life. Once you see clearly which of your possessions are working for you and which are working against you, you can make better decisions. Takeaway 2. Build your asset column. Every dollar you earn should be directed somewhere. Instead of automatically spending, just create a habit. A percentage of every paycheck goes into your asset column. Start small if you have to, even $50 a month. Over time, as your assets grow, you'll have more to invest. What should you buy? That depends on your interests and skills. Real estate works for some people. Stocks work for others. Starting a side business works for many. The key is to start somewhere and learn as you go. Takeaway 3. Invest in financial education. Your mind is your greatest asset, and invest in it consistently. Read books about investing, accounting, and business. Take courses, find mentors. The more you know, the more opportunities you'll see, and the fewer mistakes you'll make. Kiyosaki emphasizes that financial education is different from academic education. You can have a PhD and be financially illiterate. You can have no degree and build substantial wealth. The difference is what you know about money. Takeaway 4. Work for learning, not just earning. If you're early in your career, Prioritize jobs that teach transferable skills. Sales, marketing, management, leadership. These skills pay dividends for life. Even if a job pays less than another option, consider what you'll learn. Later in your career, you can focus on earning, but the foundation you build early determines how much you can earn later. Takeaway 5. Use corporations and tax strategies legally. You don't need to start a complex corporate structure tomorrow, but you should understand that the wealthy play by different rules. As your wealth grows, consult with accountants and lawyers about legal ways to structure your affairs to minimize taxes and protect assets. Takeaway 6. Overcome psychological barriers. Be honest with yourself about what's holding you back. Is it fear, laziness, arrogance, cynicism? Identify your obstacles and develop strategies for overcoming them. Sometimes the hardest work is internal. Takeaway 7. Take action. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Reading this summary is valuable, but only if you actually do something with what you've learned. Start today. Take one small step toward building your asset column. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What the author wants the reader to understand. At its core, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is about one central message. Financial education is the key to financial freedom. Kiyosaki wants you to understand that the traditional path, go to school, get a good job, work hard, save money, invest in your home, is not a path to wealth. It's a path to the rat race. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of working for money instead of having money work for you. He wants you to see that the wealthy don't play by the same rules as everyone else, not because they're unethical, but because they understand the game. They know the difference between assets and liabilities. They know how to use tax laws to their advantage. They know that financial intelligence is more valuable than academic credentials. But perhaps most importantly, Kiyosaki wants you to understand that you can learn these things too. Financial literacy isn't reserved for the privileged few. It's a body of knowledge that anyone can acquire. The only requirements are curiosity, discipline, and the willingness to take action. The book isn't about getting rich quick. It's about changing your relationship with money, seeing it as a tool rather than a goal, understanding that true wealth comes from ownership rather than employment, and recognizing that financial freedom is possible for anyone willing to learn. As Kiyosaki writes in the introduction, the poor and the middle class work for money, and the rich have money work for them. That one sentence captures the entire philosophy of the book. Strengths of the book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has sold over 40 million copies for good reason. Here are some of its notable strengths. Accessible storytelling. Kiyosaki presents complex financial concepts through simple stories and parables. The two-dad framework makes abstract ideas concrete and memorable. Readers can easily grasp the contrast between traditional thinking and wealth-building thinking. Mindset shift. For many readers, this book provides their first glimpse of how the wealthy actually think about money. It challenges deeply ingrained assumptions about work, saving, and investing. Even critics acknowledge that the first chapter alone can transform a reader's perspective. Motivational power. The book inspires action. Readers finish it feeling energized and ready to take control of their financial lives. This motivational quality has made it a favorite among entrepreneurs and investors. Broad appeal, the lessons apply across income levels and life stages. Whether you're a student just starting out or a professional with decades of experience, the core principles remain relevant. The book has found readers in over 100 countries and in more than 50 languages. Emphasis on education. At a time when personal finance wasn't taught in schools, Kiyosaki made financial education a mainstream topic. He encouraged millions to take responsibility for their own learning and to question conventional wisdom. Practical frameworks. The asset/liability distinction, the cash flow quadrant, the concept of paying yourself first, These frameworks provide practical tools readers can apply immediately. Even simplified, they're powerful heuristics for financial decision-making. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this summary, let's step back and consider the big picture. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not a traditional finance book. It doesn't offer detailed budgets, specific stock picks, or step-by-step investment plans. Instead, it offers something more fundamental, a new way of seeing the world. Through the contrasting voices of two fathers, Robert Kiyosaki invites us to question everything we've been taught about money. He challenges us to see beyond the paycheck, beyond the job security, beyond the conventional wisdom that says work hard, save money, and hope for the best. He shows us that there's another path, a path where money works for us instead of the other way around. The book's enduring popularity suggests that its message resonates deeply. Millions of readers around the world have found in these pages permission to think differently, to question authority, and to pursue financial independence on their own terms. Will Smith read it to his son. Damon John calls it one of his favorites. It has sparked conversations, inspired action, and changed lives. But perhaps the most powerful testament to the book's impact is this. It has sold steadily for over 25 years, finding new readers in each generation. The lessons are timeless because the problems they address, financial illiteracy, the rat race, the gap between rich and poor, remain as relevant as ever. So what should you take away from this summary? First, understand the difference between assets and liabilities. This one distinction, applied consistently, can transform your financial life. Second, commit to financial education. Your mind is your greatest asset. Invest in it daily. Third, start building your asset column. Even small steps taken consistently compound over time. Fourth, overcome the psychological barriers that hold you back. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. These are the real obstacles to wealth. And finally, take action. Read more books. Talk to successful people. Make offers. Start small, but start. As Kiyosaki writes, the richest people in the world build networks. Everyone else is trained to look for work. This book invites you to become a network builder rather than a job seeker. It invites you to join the ranks of those who have money work for them rather than working for money. Will you accept the invitation? You've been listening to Audiobook Insights, and this has been our comprehensive summary of Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. We hope this deep dive has given you a clear understanding of the book's core lessons and inspired you to take action in your own financial life. If you enjoyed this summary, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We release new audiobook summaries every week, covering the best books on finance, business, psychology, and self-development. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We'd also love to hear from you. Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? What lessons resonated most with you? Are there concepts you disagree with? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. And if there's another book you'd like us to summarize, let us know. We're always taking suggestions from our community. Remember, knowledge is only potential power. It becomes actual power only when you act on it. So take what you've learned today and do something with it. Your future self will thank you. And thank you for listening to Audiobook Insights. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building your asset column.